Welcome. So it's a new month, which means a new theme. We are going to really dive into creating resilience this month. And we will vary our focus through the weeks, through the different koshas. Now, of course, all of our layers of self are completely intertwined and interconnected. It's really impossible to create resilience in the body without also creating resilience in the breath or in our affective state or even in our thoughts, our thinking, our mind. But we'll sort of focus in on different layers during different weeks, weaving in the others with some awareness creating, but we'll really pay attention to sort of one kosha at a time and attempt to really find some refinement in how to create resilience in that particular layer of your self-experience. But I just wanted to sort of put it in your awareness, right? That even though sometimes we take things separate in terms of how we talk about them or how we explore them, we always want to keep in the forefront of our awareness that all of this is integrated with everything. So the whole idea that we are an independent self just really doesn't work once we start to experience ourselves in the greater context of community, of really the entire experience that we have on this planet. And so I just wanted to give that as a little preamble. So at this point, I invite you to find a comfortable seat, and maybe you're happy in an easy seat. If you find that your knees pop up when you're here, this is where a blanket under the sits bones or a little wedge under your seat might be helpful. Just anything to make sure that your hips are, and when I say your hips, the tops of your hips are higher than your knees. That's just more conducive to the health in your knee joint. And once you have decided on which seat, you could also be in hero pose like this. This makes sure that your hips are above the knees. You can have a lock here. Then, if it feels appropriate to you, I invite you to close your eyes or to bring them to a downcast gaze, maybe finding a soft spot to focus on in front of you. And from that place of drawing inward into yourself, begin to grow roots into the earth through the places where your body is making contact with the earth, so that you can truly anchor yourself to the experience of being connected to this planet, to this community. And then as you have this sense of connecting, of grounding, maybe even rooting into the earth, feel the rebound from that grounding by recognizing that it creates extension through the spine, and that you can also find a sense of expansiveness here as the crown of the head moves toward your ceiling or the sky. And maybe you'll find that this rebound, this sense of expansiveness, rises all the way from the pelvis through the abdomen, through the entire torso, through your mouth, through the top of the head. Sometimes there's like a sense of the palate lifting here, away from the earth. Creating this sense of grounding and expansion is often called yielding, and that word sort of contains both of those principles, where you're yielding into the earth and then you're yielding to the pushback, the rebound. And so just see if you can access that in the seat this morning. And as you're sitting here, very mindfully drawing to your attention to this conversation between your body and the earth, your body and the sky. Gently begin to notice how the breath enters into that relationship. It might be easiest to notice the breath as movement in the body here. Perhaps sensing the expansiveness that comes with the inhalation. And the gentle drawing inward that comes with the exhalation. The rebound tends to come as you draw the breath in. And the grounding tends to come as you let go of the breath. Continue to observe this dance of the breath with the body. As you ground and expand. As you breathe in and breathe out. As your body settles into the earth and expands toward the sky. Invite all of your attention to be in this process of yielding, this process of grounding and expanding. So if the mind wants to wander away, gently invite it back with curiosity. Where can I feel my grounding? Where can I feel my expansion? How can I perceive this as the completeness of yielding to this moment, being fully present for my breath, for my body? Take 2 more rounds of breath. When your 2 rounds of breath are complete, maybe you rest your hands on your thighs, or maybe if it feels appropriate, you bring your palms together at your heart. And bow your head to your heart center. Take another moment to tune in to this present-centeredness that you created. This spaciousness that arises between grounding and expanding. And from that place, invite an intention for your time on the mat today. Simple word or phrase that gives your practice on the mat a higher purpose. And if it feels appropriate, take a breath in to ground that intention deep into your being. And then take a breath out to send that intention expansively out into your world. And then release your hands, open your eyes, and lift your focus. And we will come to standing. So from your standing posture, see if you can create the same sense of yielding that you were working on in your seat. So let yourself feel the connectedness to the earth through your feet, whether you feel 3 corners of the feet or 4 corners of the feet, doesn't matter. Some of us sort of feel the pad of the big toe, the pad of the little toe, and then the inner and outer heel. Some of us just feel a spot on the heel. And so just notice how you best access a sense of grounding through the feet. And let yourself really feel that downward descending sort of energy in the breath as you ground your body into the earth. And then create the rebound, create this upward spaciousness, maybe by literally drawing your kneecaps toward the hips, drawing the pelvic floor into the body, drawing the navel in and up toward the spine, maybe lifting the shoulders and then rolling them, releasing them on your back. Feeling that sense of expansion through the crown of the head. And then with your inhalation, invite your arms to move upward. With the exhalation, bring them down very deliberately, very engaged, imagining that you're pressing against viscous substance. You guys know this about me, right? It's like this imagery of moving the arms through peanut butter or Nutella or whatever substance, so that you can really feel the engagement of muscle on bone. And just notice how this feels different on the way up versus the way down. Notice which force seems to be stronger here, the sense of grounding or the sense of expanding. And as you're paying attention to those things, can you notice whether there's like almost an exaggeration of them? Does grounding at some point turn into gripping or bracing? And does expansion at some point turn into wanting or striving? Just notice. The next time your arms are up overhead, keep them there. And then clasp the left wrist with your right hand and let yourself side bend to the right. Now today we're going to be really luxurious here in that we also let the left hip move to the left, so that we're making a really luxurious C curve with the body here. And just notice what feels comfortable as you're here for a moment. With your next inhalation, come up, switch the clasp of the wrist and then come to the other side. Moving nice and slow with the breath. And then maybe coming into a breathing rhythm where you're coming up on the inhale and down on the exhale. Noticing where in this little flow you can ground and where in this flow you can feel expansive. One more time to the left. And then we will meet at center. Arms stay lifted for a moment, but let the shoulder blades ground, let the shoulder blades settle. And then once the shoulder blades are settled with an out breath, you can bring your arms down. Now from here, we'll take a little bit of a twisting sequence where we will inhale the arms up. Once they're lifted, you twist to the right. You wrap the arms around any amount, doesn't have to be far. With your next inhalation, you bring them back up. And with the exhalation, you come to the other side and hug yourself again into a little twist. And flow with your breath here, inhaling to expand and exhaling to twist. And as you move here, stay focused on this idea that in everything we do physically, there is a grounding and there's an expansion. And that grounding and expansion happens on the foundation of core stability. So there's always a little bit of engagement in the pelvic floor, in the belly, so that you can move toward the ground and toward the sky from a place of stability. The next time you have twisted to the left, you can come to stillness at center. Arms are lifted, ground through the feet, and then with an exhalation, deliberately move the arms back to your side. All right, and then find your blocks and bring them to the top of your mat. And then ground into your feet, and with an inhalation, let yourself expand toward the sky. And with your next exhalation, fold at the hip joint, loading the arms to the blocks. And then take some very interesting cow and cat shapes here in a forward fold. So as you inhale, let the belly move toward the floor and let the head lift. As you exhale, let the belly button move you into a cat arch as the head moves down. And let yourself experience this flow for a few times as you move the spine and create grounding and expansion in different places now. Keeping the core engaged and realizing that the resilience of the movement of your body comes from this interplay of stability at the core, grounding through the places where you can ground, and expanding, becoming spacious in the places where that's possible. After your next cat, come to neutral. And in the neutral position, really think about drawing the navel toward the spine to have core engagement. Let that rebound happen in the pelvic floor. So let the earth help you expand upward, and maybe even feel the expansiveness through the palate, through the crown of the head, even though we're not standing upright. And then from that place, with an inhalation, lift the right leg behind you. And with the exhalation, lower it. And continue to flow with the breath. Your head can stay turned so that you're looking toward the floor. I'm just checking my screen so that I can see what's happening. And so my head is turned. And flow with the breath here, noticing again, where are you grounding and where are you expansive? And then notice if at any point the grounding becomes too heavy, so that it turns into a collapse instead. And then switch sides. Inhaling, left leg up, exhaling, left leg down. And continue with that exploration of feeling stable at your core, and then grounding and expanding. So I was starting to say that grounding can turn into either gripping or collapsing, or we just let go, or we want to ground so much that we grip for it. And so just notice if you're grounding so hard through the right foot as the left foot lifts that it becomes unpleasant. Just notice. And the next time your left foot comes down, leave it there. And now you have options on the next movement. You can lift the right leg and then lift the left arm, lower the left arm, lower the right leg, Or you can do both at the same time. You'll have to see what your coordination is like this morning to know what's possible. So just play with it and see. And find a place of resilience. So find the movement that still invites grounding and expansion and leaves you feeling stable as you inhale and exhale. Making this movement yours. Maybe one limb at a time, or maybe both limbs together. 2 more times. And then switch sides. Either one limb at a time, left leg, then right arm back, left leg back, or both limbs together. And notice whether the demand that has become greater here changes how you're grounding and how you're expanding. Notice whether you're losing the stability at your core. And invite your resilience to come back, restabilizing, regrounding, finding spaciousness. And one more time. From here, we'll reverse swan dive up with an inhalation. Drawing the breath in, expanding upward. Maybe the hands come together and you draw the energy to your heart. Tune into your breath for a moment. And just feel that movement reverberating in your energy, in your body. And notice if you still feel stable at the core here. If you feel grounded through the feet and expansive through the crown of the head. And then release your hands down. We'll come into tabletop. Oh, we don't need your blocks. Get over here. Now in tabletop, we'll explore a little bit what happens as we begin to add twisting to our postures here. I don't know, I'm gonna run into a wall, but I'll show it to the best of my ability. So we'll start by lifting the right leg behind us and then crossing it over to the left, letting the right elbow come to the earth to come into almost like a pranam or bowing position in a bit of a twist. Slow with the breath, inhale back out of this, and then inhale other side to exhale in to the forward fold. Inhale out of it. Switch sides. And as you flow here, notice where you are grounding, where you're expanding, and how you're navigating a sense of stability here. Notice if anything is changing for the body now that you're adding a twisting motion to your flow. One more time, making sure that you end with the left leg crossing over so that you've done both sides the same number of times. and find yourself in tabletop. From here, actually, I'll turn around. Inhale your way up with the right hand. I'll turn around again. And then as you exhale, slide the hand through the opening to come into a threaded needle position. You could be on your elbow here. You might be on your shoulder. The head may or may not touch the ground. You could bring a blanket under your head if that helps. And then if it's possible, either bring the left hand ahead of you on the ground, or if you would like, you can bring it up and lay it on the small of your back, on your sacrum. And then notice where you are grounding in this pose. And notice where you're lifting, expanding. Are you collapsing into the ground, losing all integration and stability? Or are you striving upward so hard that you're gripping and grasping? Or are you just right? Are you finding that middle way of yielding, finding the rebound from the earth to have lift, and releasing yourself to gravity, letting go? Just notice. And then if you'd like to experiment here with more variations, absolutely feel free. So maybe you would like to stretch the left leg behind you. Maybe that right arm comes up, turns inward, and wraps around. Just see how you can be playful here. Maybe that leg even lifts up. And don't grip into it or collapse into it. Just be playful and notice when I'm stable, when I ground myself, and when I let myself be expansive, what happens in my body here? And then ultimately find your way back to where we started, which is the left hand on the sacrum, the right arm either on the floor or you're on the shoulder or the elbow. And then return the left hand to the ground, press into the ground, feel a rebound from the earth to press yourself up, back into tabletop. If you need, maybe take a couple of cats and cows to release any gripping that may have crept in. And just notice sort of your physical habits here. Do you tend to be more collapsed? Do you tend to be more grippy and graspy? Bracing yourself into something, fighting your way into it? Or do you escape from challenge? Just notice. It's all information that will help you find more resilience. With your next inhalation, let the left arm come up so that you're opening to the left, and then slide it through the opening of the right arm. Again, finding either your elbow or your shoulder. Maybe the head touches down, maybe the head touches down on a blanket, or maybe this is where you're threading your needle, right? There's a lot of work you can do here as we move into the playfulness of the pose. And so just see where you find yielding in this pose, that combination of stability, of grounding, and of expanding. And then watch what's possible in terms of maybe new variations that you've never even thought of exploring in this particular posture. Letting your intuition guide you here. Or alternatively, if you notice that you've really buckled or collapsed somewhere, what can you do to undo that collapse? If you're really gripping or fighting, how can you soften? And then whenever you feel ready, after you've been playful here, you can come back, reversing out of this side to find yourself back in tabletop, once again exploring a few cows and cats here. Maybe becoming increasingly conscious of this idea that you are grounding into the earth finding the rebound to expand. Find this sort of dynamic that feels very powerful and yet supple. Now from your tabletop position, walk your hands forward by one hand's length, curl your toes under. And then using the rebound from the grounding that you're doing through the toes and the hands to press the hips toward the feet, and then to let the hips lift themselves up in the air, letting the expansiveness of your body carry the hips up here into your version of down dog. Maybe your knees are bent here, maybe your heels are lifted. It doesn't matter, you could even bring a blanket under the heels. And then notice where you can find grounding in this pose and where you can find lift. Where can the pressing into the ground find the rebound that lets you feel expansive here? Not collapsed and not gripping or wanting, but yielding, supple, engaged yet soft. Now from this very strong down dog, see if you can unweight the left hand so that you're in a three-legged down dog. The left hand maybe comes out to the side or comes forward. Just experiment with what it's like to be in down dog resiliently on just three limbs. And then if it feels possible in this moment, see if that left hand can reach the outside of the right leg somewhere, maybe at the thigh or the knee or the shin or the ankle, as you add a little twist here to your down dog. And as you're twisting into this posture, what is happening? Are you losing your physical resilience? Are you gripping, collapsing? So figure out, where can I soften? Where can I engage so that I'm fully in the pose with all of my attention? With your next inhalation, bring the left hand back to the earth. And if you would like, you can take a child's pose for a moment to release, or you can continue to hold downward dog. It's your choice. But take a moment to reground, to resettle, not just your body, but your nervous system and maybe your mind. Doesn't matter whether you're doing that in child's pose or down dog. It just needs to be done with honesty and without overly gripping or collapsing. And then when you're ready for the second side, come back into your down dog if you left it, and once again feel the grounding through the hands and the feet, and then feel the rebound, the lift through the hips, even through the wrists of the hands, and then unweight the right hand and start by just waving that right arm around a little bit to sort of be in this three-legged shape. And then when you feel ready, you can come into the twist, bringing that right hand to the outside, wherever it works, of the left leg. And notice what the twist adds for you here in terms of challenge. And then explore how you can meet that challenge by either softening where you're gripping too much, or by maybe engaging where you have collapsed. One place where people tend to collapse here is in the pelvic floor. They let the bottom drop out, and so see if the pelvic floor is still lifting. Is your palate still lifting? Is the crown of the head still moving away from the rib cage? This time that means it's moving toward the floor. So just notice, where can you soften, where can you engage to create more resilience? And then release the right hand, and this time we'll all come down into a child's pose to rest and release for a moment. Your choice of version of child's pose, so maybe the knees stay closed for a little bit more of a rounding, of the back. Or maybe today your preference is to have the knees wide and to be more in a little bit of a back bend almost in this child's pose. Just notice what feels appropriate and then yield to that desire. And then even in your child's pose, notice the grounding sensation that's available to you here, as well as the expansiveness. Maybe the expansiveness is mostly happening in your back body as the breath expands the ribcage. And you feel the pulsation, the vibration of life moving through you. Notice if you've disengaged or collapsed anywhere. Maybe that pelvic floor is dropping out again. Invite it to engage. If you're gripping or holding anywhere where you don't need to, soften. Your jaws don't need to grip here, and often they do, so see if you can soften them to create resilience. And then slide your hands underneath your shoulders and use the power of your arms to press you up to rocks pose. Sitting on your heels if that's possible for you. If not, you can always curl the toes under, and you could even put a blanket under the ankles here. We won't be here long, so if this is not super comfortable, that's okay. And bring the arms out to the side. And with your exhalation, twist very gently to the right. Letting the left hip follow forward into the turn. And just notice if in this gentle twist, you're dropping out anywhere, you're collapsing anywhere, and can you engage more there? Or are you overly gripping or wanting or fighting somewhere, and can you soften there? How can you create resilience in this pose? With your next inhalation, lift the arms up. And with the exhalation, come to the other side, turning to the left now, letting the right hip come forward. Yielding to your anatomy here, not forcing that right hip to stay back or forcing the pelvis to be in line here, but yielding to the wisdom of your body, grounding, expanding, feeling stable. Notice how the breath can support the posture here by bringing expansion into the ribcage. Notice how the pelvic floor, the torso, the palate, the crown of the head can lift upward, creating spaciousness even in this twisted position. And then inhale the arms up, come to center. And with an exhale, very deliberately, slowly, through your choice of substance, bring the arms down. And then swing the hips to one side to bring the feet out ahead of you and grab the strap with the little loop. Go ahead and bend your left knee and slip the strap on the right foot. Bring it over so that the right hand can, actually bring it to the left so the left hand can grip onto it. Oh, we're backwards. We need to be on the other foot. We need to be on the left foot and bend the right knee. Otherwise, we're doing the twist on the opposite side, and we want to twist first on the ascending colon, the right side, and then the descending colon, the left side. So, all right, grab the strap with the right hand, and we're doing this just to create a really tangible connection between the foot. so that the ankle is flexed and the elbow and the knee. So the right elbow will press into the right knee and the right elbow connect. So knee is pressing outward, elbow is pressing inward. At the same time, that hand is really connecting to the toes via the strap. So you feel a lot of engagement here, and then just feel a rebound from that and the expansiveness that brings into your torso. And then from here, turn your left elbow over to the right knee and kind of huddle yourself into this very gentle twist. Stay really active. That right arm and left foot, they stay connected. Notice where you are gripping and soften. Notice where you're dropping out or collapsing, and engage. Perhaps you feel expansiveness as breath in the back of the body. And maybe really notice the gentle squeezing of your leg making contact with the right side of your abdomen. With your next inhalation, open yourself up and out of this twist. Release the right foot down, switch the strap. Grab the strap with the left hand. Adjust the right distance that you really feel that connection between the hand and the foot. Now, if you were really flexy, you could, of course, grab the right toe. But the idea here is not to force so much of a forward fold as to really explore the grounding and the expansion and the stability of your body. From here, inhale, and then exhale to reach the left elbow around the right, the right elbow around the left knee. I am really having problems today. And let yourself settle into this very sweet twist and fold. Ground into the earth. And notice where you can find expansiveness here. And you lift through the pelvic floor, through the pelvis. And you feel the breath expanding your back body. Can you keep the connection between the left hand and the right foot without grasping or bracing or gripping here? Staying connected, but in a soft way. Can you yield into this gentle twist? With your next inhalation, unravel the twist. Release the strap from your foot. And stretch both legs out in front of you. Place your hands on the ground next to you by your hips. And just lift yourself up for a moment. You could even take your blocks, bring them under the hands and make this a really nice lift up Flex the feet back. Find the expansion through the crown of the head. Find the grounding through your hands and the heels. And if you want to be playful here and play with your resilience, can you swing the hips side to side? And then gently place your seat back on the mat. Release your blocks. Scoot forward and then bring yourself onto your back. You can walk yourself back using the hands. Or if you want to check in with the stability of your core, you can use your core muscles to slowly roll yourself onto your back. Always checking in with how the body wants to yield to the moment. And then from here, bring the feet mat width apart. And with the exhalation, bring both knees to the left. Inhale them up. And then with the next exhale, bring both knees to the right. And flow through this windshield wiper movement for a few breath cycles. And as you're flowing through here, notice in particular the hip that gets stretched. So it's the right hip when we're to the left hip when we're to the right. And just check in with how this resonates through your body. We've been flexing the hips, and so now we're stretching them. How does that affect how grounded you feel? How stable you feel? How challenged you feel? The next time you have finished the stretch to the right, you can come back to center. Walk your feet together and then gently hug the knees into the chest. And as you're folding the knees in, walk the hips away from the shoulders to create space in the spine. Touch the feet back down and take a brick. Place it under your sacrum. Walk the shoulder blades underneath you so that now you're grounding through the back body, through the shoulder blades. And you can either stay in this small bridge pose and rest here for a moment, or if you'd like to continue to stretch the hip joints after a lot of flexion in this practice today, you can straighten the legs here to let the hips open up. You could even lift the arms up and overhead to the ground if that is accessible. And then soften everywhere. You're not exactly collapsing, but there's no need to hold or brace in too many places here. As you're relaxing into the final moments of the practice, maybe you even close your eyes and begin to become aware of changes in your body after this very gentle twisting practice. There might be some sounds in your intestines, maybe your stomach's gurgling. You might even have a sense that you need to yawn. Just notice. If at any point the brick is too much under the sacrum, you can always bring the feet back to the floor, lift the pelvis and remove the brick, and then come straight down onto the earth. If you're still happy with the brick under the sacrum, take 2 to 3 more breaths. With your next inhalation, walk the feet in, bring the arms back, and then lift the pelvis to remove the block and roll yourself down 1 vertebra at a time, maybe coming to your tippy toes to do that. See what any movements might be that you want to make here before you settle yourself into your final relaxation pose. Maybe some knee circles or knee figure eights. Maybe some happy babies or some twists. Just notice. And yield to that inner wisdom. Let the body move. Ground, expand, whatever it is that feels appropriate. And then whenever you are ready, go ahead and settle into a Shavasana position. Invite your body to become very heavy. Invite a deep sense of grounding. Surrendering your physical being to the force of gravity. Invite the breath to soften, to flow naturally. Maybe recognizing that the breath is just the manifestation of energy moving through the world around you. You can surrender the breath to that flow of prana, of life force, allowing yourself to be breathed. And then invite the mind to surrender as well. Neither chasing away thoughts nor latching onto them, knowing that they will dissolve on their own. As you surrender to your deeper inner wisdom and find a few moments of silence. We're running a little bit long today, so if you would like to continue your Shavasana on your own, feel free to stay in this resting position for as long as your life allows. For the rest of you, I thank you for practicing with me. It's an honor and a pleasure to spend this time with you and to share this beautiful practice that is yoga. Hope to see you next week. Take good care.